My name is Owen, and I beat cancer. When all hope was lost, when everything was against me, when chemotherapy failed, when radiation didn't work, that's when my body began to heal from stage 4 terminal cancer to cancer-free and living my best life in Costa Rica with my family, healthier than ever. Now, I want you to know that I'm not a doctor and I'm not here to give you medical advice. I am here to share with you my story and what I did. So my story begins in 2015 when I was diagnosed with stage 3 thymoma cancer. Thymoma is a cancer of the thoracic area. Tumors begin to develop on the lung pleura, and then they get onto the diaphragm where they begin to grow and eventually smash your organs and kill you. They call it a slow growing cancer, but the data is still sort of out on that. And I've had people tell me, like, what's the big deal, man? It's a slow growing cancer. And it may take, 10 years, but it kills you. I didn't know all this stuff until later. So in 2015, I'm diagnosed with a 12 centimeter tumor in my chest, stage 3. So it was starting to get onto the surrounding structures. Not quite there yet, I guess. And they opened me up. I did a sternectomy, and they did a subtotal resection, which means they did not get all the tumor. They left some of it got left on the heart and the valve near the heart and all in the chest area here. So I came out of that with a 12 centimeter scar down my chest. When the sun hits it just right, you can see the staples that come in right here. We went through the surgery, and then they said it was subtotal. There's still some in there. So therefore, we need to do chemotherapy. We need to do chemotherapy and radiation, and that's when the second part of my treatment began. So the chemotherapy schedule that they put me on was 4 different chemo, including adriamycin, which is also called the Red Devil. To this day, it haunts me just seeing that red bag empty into my bloodstream. Adriamycin, cisplatin, which is just so full of heavy metals. And then there was 2 others, I don't remember the names, but I will add them to the description box and to the blog as my wife helps me kind of get all the details in order. And then I did a Neulasta shot on Fridays. So the treatment schedule that I was on was 6 cycles of chemotherapy. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was chemo. So it was like adriamycin on Monday, cisplatin on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday was a Neulasta shot. So I did 6 cycles of that every 4 weeks. And that, it roughly, right? That's what it was supposed to be, but there's always like this and that kind of, but it took about 9 months to get through that. So at the end of 9 months, I was completely battered and bruised. And I've made lots of videos about my experience with chemo, and it was terrible. Going through chemotherapy was absolutely terrifying, traumatic. Being naked in the shower, curled up in a ball, crying, where snot is coming out of your nose. Why, God, did this happen to me? And the intense pain as the chemotherapy infusion annihilated every healthy cell in my body. It was an experience that I felt was unnecessary for the amount of cancer that was in my body. Microscopic pieces, and yet you're unloading these chemicals in me. It was an unreal experience. So I did not enjoy chemotherapy, although I believed in it. I thought, at the time I was a guy that I use Listerine, right? I use the mouthwash. It's got, if it burns, it works. Right. And I'm thinking I'm going through all this pain and chemotherapy. It's got to be working. Something this powerful has to work. So I went through chemotherapy. We're coming up to the end. It's like Christmas time, 2015. And they go, great. Your next round of medicine is radiation therapy. You're going to need 30 days of radiation therapy, but we can't get you in for 2.5, 3 months. So we go through Christmas. It's now 2016. I want to say it's like February or March. Rolls around and we start doing radiation therapy. So I'm, my wife is working. I have 3 kids under 4. I've got a 7-year-old stepson who lives with us half the time and raised him since he was 2, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to be a dad and I'm trying to heal and I don't know what I'm doing. And throughout all of this, guys, I was so afraid that I never Googled my own cancer. I never took the time to research thymoma and find survivors and become a part of a community. Is the first big mistake that I made. The second is I never Googled the chemotherapy and I didn't know its power, and they certainly don't tell you. They tell you that you're going to die if you don't do it. They're not going to tell you, by the way, here's side effects. right? It's, oh, nausea, blah, blah, and they give you a pill for nausea. It was not like, oh, by the way, you are going to experience such intense physical and psychological pain that it may bring you to your end. They forgot to mention that part. And I felt that that was unfair. I'm not here to crucify the medical industry. That's not my goal. But they should have told me. There should have been a DVD series that's like, what to expect when you're expecting, like what to expect when you're cancering, when you're in chemo 4 days a week. Regardless, radiation started. And so radiation was 5 days a week for 30 straight days. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now I'm driving up to Scripps in San Diego, about 45 minutes away, alone. My wife's at school. I drop my kids off at daycare. And then I'm driving 45 minutes away. And on that time, I'm doing business calls. Like I'm like trying to coach my clients and I'm a consultant. That's what I do. I'm actually a digital marketing consultant. And I'm talking to people and I'm like trying to keep my business alive. And I'm going into radiation. And radiation was such a Star Trek process, man. Like all the high tech where they beam, they channel the power of the sun, the moon, the stars, and put it into this device. And they beam it right into my chest. They had to tattoo me on the sides. They tattooed me on the sides and one right here, little tiny dots that you can still see to this day. And they would shoot lasers through me to create a spot inside me that they would focus on the radiation and they would beam all of this away. So to this day, I've got a triangle-shaped scar on my chest. I can't really grow hair there. I have yet to be able to grow substantial muscle there. In fact, I often look like a Sally Struthers commercial, feed this child kind of thing because of the bones. But you can actually see the staples where they stapled me back together, and then the radiation burn area. Radiation was absolutely the worst decision I ever made. And I don't think I lived my life with regrets. I don't really believe in regrets. I believe in acceptance. But if I had a regret, I would regret radiation. And the pain and the physical, side effects of that pain last me to this day. I am on a pharmaceutical to this day because of the side effects of the radiation. So, and I'll get to that. So I go through this process. It takes about a year, maybe 13, 14 months to go through this whole process of chemotherapy and radiation. And I am battered, I am bruised, I am bald, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, just destroyed, nothing, bald, completely cancer patient. And that's my life. And then at the end of all of that, they let me ring the bell. You know what that is, ring the bell? So when you're done with your treatment protocol, you get to ring the bell and everybody claps and it's like last day of treatment. I thought that ringing the bell meant that I was done with cancer. And so I even gave a little speech. I rang the bell and I sort of gave a little speech and the nurses were kind of like, what's this guy doing? I was like, that's just me. It's just who I am. But in my mind, I thought that we were done. And that wasn't true at all. Really, ringing the bell is a celebration of your financial ability to pay for treatment and your physical ability to not die through it. That's why you're ringing the bell. I was able to pay for this and I'm still alive. I'm not dead yet. And I know that some of you watching right here know someone who rang the bell and was dead a few months later. Well, here's how my story goes, is I rang that bell and I never heard from those doctors again. I never got a follow-up call. No medical department ever called me and was like, hey, we need to get your 6-month checkup. That never happened. There's people out there who really don't like me telling these stories. And they've told me in the comments, it was your job to follow up. It's your job. Okay, so I'm this beaten, broken cancer patient. I have no idea what's happening here. And I'm supposed to just have the wherewithal through all that. Here's what I was focused on. I was focused on getting my hair back, getting my life back, and getting as far away from cancer as possible. 4.5 years went by. And during that 4.5 years, I was in and out of the hospital multiple times with blood circulation problems, blood clots. This was before blood clots were cool, but I had what was called superior vena cava syndrome. So the radiation had fried shut my superior vena cava, which is the main vein that supplies blood to the upper portion of the body and to the brain. So what was happening is I was getting gassed out really fast. I was getting tired. And I remember doing a lot of work. I was grateful every step of the way that my business had actually grown during this time. And we were doing okay in terms of revenue and financial. So I was out touring. I was the guy who beat cancer and it's come share your story and teach us some digital marketing stuff. And so that's what I was doing. I was going to all these conferences. And I know a lot of people in the YouTube space, that YouTube and TikTok is a big part of what we do. And I'm noticing that I'm getting super tired. I cannot last. And I would wake up every day feeling like I didn't get enough rest. I didn't get enough sleep.